How's it going, everyone? Welcome to another episode of I Think I Love You with your host, as always, Loverboy Los. Hope everyone's doing well. Been catching a lot of NBA playoff basketball. Been watching all these games, fun, exciting. And just like this podcast, you never know what's going to happen. And today's guest is a little bit like that. So this is a different type of episode only because I'm going to be interviewing Atiya Siddiqi. She has a poem book out right now called Loving You. So I've read some of the poems and she breaks down on what she felt and what inspired her metaphors. So it's a really good breakdown. We learn about the things that she's been through. She had this love for a long time, and most of these poems are about that love. Talk about breaking up, saying goodbye. Man, saying goodbye is the hardest thing to me. I'm in a relationship right now, and every time I hang out with my boo, it's always the hardest part, just saying goodbye. And saying goodbye too, in case you ever need to break up. That's one of the toughest ways to break off a relationship too. So we talk about that, and just don't want to spoil too much, but you get to see how close Atiya was with this person, and so anyone else can relate to it. She wrote a whole poem book, and if you want to grab this book, it's also available on Amazon, Google Play. You can get a Kindle version. Just find it anywhere. It's called Loving You. I'll also be putting a link on there in my show notes, so you'll be able to find it. And like always, please follow me at Loverboy on Instagram. Twitter is Loverboy The Facebook page is I Think I Love You. And you can also please leave a review on iTunes for I Think I Love You. It helps me out a ton. Thank you. Now enjoy the episode.
Welcome to I Think I Love You, where we keep it real with your past, current, and future relationships. With your host, Loverboy Los.
Welcome to another episode of I Think I Love You, recording in Sunnyside, California. My guest for today is all the way in Wisconsin, but thank you to cell phones and all that because we can still interview her, even though she's like 2,000 miles away. I want to welcome my guest, Atiya Siddiqi. She actually wrote a poem book called Loving You. Welcome to my show, Atiya. Thank you so much for giving me the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Carlos. I'm excited to be here. Like you said, yes, I did recently write a book of poems called Loving You, while also out here in Wisconsin working on my master's degree.
Yeah, you're keeping busy. I mean, wow, I'm over here with a full-time job and I think I got enough work, but you probably got like twice as much and still managed to find the time to do this book. Yeah, and so my listeners know, I want you to talk more about your book and some of the things that inspired you to write these poems.
Yeah, I actually wrote my first poem that's in this book about almost a year ago today. They're all written about the same person who I was just completely in love with for years. I think we were probably on and off for maybe 7 years or
Wow, so. That's a long time.
Yeah. And he actually lives in Los Angeles. Around this time last year, I actually went to LA to see him, and
last year.
May of last year, I went to LA to see him and thought, this is it. This is our chance to get back together. I'm in a place where I'm ready. Hopefully he's in a place where he's ready. And it just was not what I expected. And then from there, after, we spent a couple days together, I just kept writing, like all these emotions that I had about him and our relationship for, 7 years or so, they just kept coming to me. And, that was sort of how I wrote this book.
So that was like a big inspiration of just like you finding someone that you were thinking you're going to spend a good amount of the rest of your life with, and then it just coming crashing down, or not the ending that you hoped for.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it was always one of those things where it felt like we were supposed to be together, but that we just could never get the timing right. And so I thought this last time that I had gone to see him that it was time, we could finally do this, even though it's still going to be long distance. I just felt, I guess, ready, just as a person. And then when we saw each other, and we hadn't seen each other for maybe 3 years before that, I realized, we're just different people now.
Right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was great, and we're friends now. I mean, we talk once a week or so, just as friends. But I don't think we could have gotten there if I hadn't written this book.
Wow, yeah. Well, at least something good did come out of this relationship, because this book is amazing, or from some of the poems that I really like. And that's my little segue getting into some of the poems that I wanted to talk about. So for my listeners, I'm going to be reading some of Atiya's poems, and she's going to give me kind of the breakdown or the rap genius version of it, of what inspired her, what some of the things that made her write this, why do we feel some of the things, because you hit a lot of great points in these poems, Atiya, that made me realize, like, yeah, that's exactly how I felt when I was going through something like this. So with the first one that I want to talk about is, you are my favorite song, the rhythm of your breath, the melody in your eyes, when your lips meet mine in harmony, when you crescendo into me, I know every word of loving you. You wrote that in such a nice and poetic way that I love the metaphor of it just representing a song through love. And we think of love songs all the time, like, oh man, my favorite song came up with my girlfriend or whatever, or that's our song. And then you literally wrote a song that's about love, but with the rhythm and all that into it. What's some of the things that made you want to write this? And was it just spur of the moment? What were your feelings at that time?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my poems are pretty short. And I was actually thinking about, you're right, the fact that there are so many love songs, and they really, I think, people obviously all over the world really connect with love songs, and
Yeah.
they're just like so powerful. And to me, I was like, wow, but that's not something I can do. I could never write a love song, but I know that people really, really connect love with music.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to kind of do the same thing. And I tried to think about, what is it about love songs that make us feel so attached to them? And like, a lot of the times it's the lyrics, but a lot of the times it's also the flow, and how somebody, we think, we hear a song that we like and we think of somebody in particular, right? When we hear a love song, we always think of somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to kind of channel that and think about, like, like maybe we like love songs so much because people themselves are very deep and kind of like music. Like, there's music everywhere. And like, just thinking about like how you feel when you hear a love song and the person that you think about, and sort of trying to turn the things that you think about that person into a song itself. So like the rhythm of your breath and the melody in your eyes, and when you crescendo into me. So kind of just turning those feelings into sort of music.
Yeah, and you did it so well. I think you hit a point too about how songs remind us of people, because there's certain songs to this day that I can't play because they'll remind me of my ex or things like that. So I'm like, they hit home they can hit us in a good way and in a bad way. So yeah, I definitely agree with the songs. It's reminding us of people, and just the way you wrote that. Wow. It's really awesome that you had the creativity, just put the words just like that. I'm going to move on. Yeah, you're welcome. I'm going to move on to the next one. I think a lot of guys can relate to this, just because we're not supposed to be, quote unquote, lovey dovey all the time, or, show our emotions. But I really like this one. It's a strange place to be in love, It's full of colors and sounds, but also darkness and silence. It's a place where you feel that alone is enough to make some people leave. We may come and go throughout our lives, but it will never be the same place twice. I like it best, this strange place where I'm here with you, in love with you. This is this reminded me of the times when you fall in love, but you don't want to say it to someone because you're not supposed to be there yet, or it's too fast. That's how I interpret it, because I've been there, and it feels weird for the first time too if you don't experience it, because you just constantly think about the person nonstop.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is weird when we first fall in love with someone, we're thinking sort of like, what's happening,
Mm-hmm.
and you go through ups and downs, right? So it's full of colors and sounds and like it's exciting and you're happy to be there, but there's also darkness and silence.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you're thinking, what the hell am I doing? Like
Yeah.
I don't like this, or this is scary. But I think also what we do is we
Mm-hmm.
compare all the times we've been in love. And we have to realize it's never the same love twice. We will
Mm-hmm.
never experience love the same way with different people.
Have you had that experience yet?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've, like candidly, I've been in several relationships,
Mm-hmm.
since the first time I fell in love with the person who I wrote this book about. And after
Uh-huh.
every single one of them, I went back to him because I kept comparing, you
Yeah.
know, our love and our relationship to what I had in the moment. And I think that's a terrible thing to do. You'll never appreciate what's in front of you if you keep looking back at what you had.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we forget that. We forget that it's never, every time we're in love, it's not going to be it's not going to be the same place, but we're never going to appreciate that until we realize it.
Yeah, and that to me was a scary part, because when I was going through my breakup too, and just I fell in that zone of just comparing all the different girls I was dating to that one love. And I was hearing the same stuff that you're telling me, that every love's different, but I just couldn't find out why. Like, what do you mean? Like, I thought it's gonna feel like this the next time, but you just slowly go through it and you experience it, and you do gotta appreciate the people that you are dating or whoever you get in a relationship with, because if you don't, you constantly compare, it's a never ending hole that you're never gonna dig yourself out of.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's good to appreciate how weird and how strange it is, and all the ups and downs, because you're you change and you grow, and
Hmm.
when you're with someone new, you're going to be a different person, and the person that you're with is also going to bring different things to the table that make you think in different ways, that make you feel different things, and
Hmm.
you just have to appreciate that, I think.
Yeah, you do. And one of the lines that I do want to point out is that alone is enough to make some people leave. Were you talking about when you're just in love and it's kind of a place by yourself, when you're with the other person, like, would that make someone just want to leave?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a couple different interpretations. I think that a lot of times when people are in love but they're not expressing themselves, I think sometimes people feel lonely, right?
Yeah.
And they're thinking like, I'm here in this place, I'm in love with this person, but I'm here by myself.
Hmm.
And I think that oftentimes we sort of put that feeling in our head that it's there, that we're here alone. The other person is not feeling the same way. They don't appreciate me the way that I appreciate them. They don't love me back. Even if that's not true, I think a lot of people find themselves in that place and they feel lonely in love, and they walk away from it. You know, they think that I'm alone here and they leave.
No, yeah, they do, because it's hard to just, and even to feel the rejection too, if the other person doesn't love you, it's enough to just not want to make you stay. But I think this poem just touched on those points. And just, why do you think it's a thing that we consider it to be strange?
I think because I think romantic love is just so different from like the love that we grew up with, right? Like you have parents who love you and you have friends who love you, and then all of a sudden you're like loving somebody else in a different way, and it can be confusing, you know? You're like, what is this? What's happening to me? And I think it's so different than non-romantic love, because there's always this sort of fear of betrayal, or, like I said, feeling lonely, that you just don't have in other types of love. You know that you can count on your friends. You know that you can count on your family. But a lot of times when we're in a romantic relationship, we don't have that security, and it's so weird because it is love.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's different when you're with someone. Oh man, it can be a scary place, but it's so worth it if you do find another person that loves you back too. And for the next poem, I want to talk about this one. I wish I had written everything down about the first time you kissed me. I just didn't know then that it was the beginning of forever. This made me think about just the first time we kissed someone that we truly, truly love. Is like, oh wow, this is like amazing. Like, but we take it for granted.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. And you know, this in particular, the first kiss that I had with the person who I wrote this book about. Yeah, I mean, I was pretty drunk. I remember some parts of it, and I just wish that I had remembered everything, because it was really, that experience was just the foundation of what was to come, you know? And like, I love this. I mean, I still love him today, you know, and in a different way, but like, it was just for so many relationships, I think the first kiss is so formative. And gosh, I wish I could remember every part of it, because it would be such a happy memory too. And like looking back at it. But I think you're right. I think a lot of times we do take it for granted, because I don't know, you don't know what your first kiss is going to turn into. And sometimes it does turn into forever.
No, yeah. That was a great point of just making sure that you appreciate not just only kiss, but I guess at least being with that person at that time too. Because I feel that we always, oh yeah, no duh, you're supposed to kiss the person that you like, but it doesn't always last like that. And for this next poem, it's this one. I don't know how to say goodbye to you. Maybe it's the way you smile after you kiss my nose, or how your fingers interlace with mine. Oh, how your neck smells like fresh rain. Maybe it's the way you smile after you kiss my nose. I'm not going to say goodbye to you.
Yeah. I think actually I wrote this poem sitting at LAX last year, after I had spent a couple of days with this person, and I was just like, I don't know, I was just like, this can't be the end.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, it's the little things. It's the little things that I just adore, and that I want, and that I need, and I can't say goodbye to you. I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. And I was sort of in this place where I was just like so motivated to like make this relationship work. And I was just
Yeah.
like, it's just these little things that I just love and I need them in my life.
Did you feel that other person needed to try to make it work as well? Was he trying to make it work at this point too?
You know, he's a very private person, and I mean, I probably know him better than a lot of his close friends. But
That's saying
he's
something,
a
yeah.
very private person. And I know that he loves me, and I know that he always will, but I don't know really what that means to him, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And from the beginning, I mean, I'm going to be 30 this year, and I fell in love with him when I was 21 years old.
Mm.
And since the beginning, I was always sort of the one to push things along.
Oh, okay.
He's a little reserved, a little shy. And so I kind of always took like the driver's seat in the relationship of like, we were always long distance throughout our relationship. And I was just always the one to say like, we're going to make it work, and we're
Yeah.
going to visit each other when we can. So I don't know, actually. I don't know exactly how he feels about me. I know how he used to feel about me. I mean, I've got a stack of handwritten love letters from him, which I'll probably keep forever.
That's great. Yeah, good for you for not throwing them out.
Yeah, no, I just couldn't. But as far as how he feels about me today, and as if he was in the same place as I was when I wrote this poem, I have no idea.
Oh yeah, I definitely feel that. Wow, it's just with the details that you wrote too, of the fingers interlacing with yours, and then just the neck smelling like fresh rain. That's a good neck smell too, by the way. And not everyone smells like that. Lucky you. So moving on to the next one. Just so you know, like I had a hard time picking these because I wanted to, yeah. I was like, shoot, I don't have a lot of time, but I know which ones I do want to talk about. But yeah, so good for you for writing all these. That made me pick wisely. We must move forward if we want to keep living, but it's only by looking back that we understand how we live. I think it's the same with love. Looking back, I was afraid of loving you. Moving forward, it's all I want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, we learn so much as we go through life, right? And we
Mm-hmm.
often reflect on things that we've done. And sometimes they're silly things like, oh man, that conversation was so weird. Like I could have said this, or like, dang, I wish I had a better comeback. But then
Mm-hmm.
there's also like better, like larger things like, oh, what if I had moved, or what if I had taken this job? And I think it's the same, like I said, I think it's the same with love. I think a lot of times we look back at our relationships and we're just like, what went wrong? Or what could I have
Yeah.
done different? Or what if what if I had said sorry instead of driving away, And
Mm-hmm.
I think I think a lot of people are afraid of loving. Like it's really scary when we think about how vulnerable we are to rejection.
And just finding out that how much you want to be there with them and show them that you want to do this too. And like you said too, that it takes a commitment and it takes a working relationship. I'd never been in a long distance relationship myself, but just hearing from what other people tell me, I know it's probably going to be a lot of work. And getting into that, I probably wouldn't even want to get in a long distance relationship with someone that I love because of that fear of just it not even working out.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, you're so detached. I think in long distance relationships, there is just sort of this natural separation that happens, right? You don't necessarily have the same friend group, and you guys aren't hanging out all the time. You're not really intertwined in each other's day-to-day lives. And I think that you just have to work extra hard to make sure that you are a part of each other's life. And it's really hard. It's not for everybody. And I think um, with long distance relationships, there is just a fear that comes naturally with, do I fit into this person's life? I'm way over here and they're living a life over there that I'm just not a part of.
Yeah, you have to trust that person a lot too. So props to you for giving it a shot. And it sounds like you trust this person a lot too. So that's good for both of you. For this next one, it actually kind of has to do with what we just talked about. So it works out perfectly. I need to, I used to lay awake at night, fearing someday you would leave. I conquered my fears by pushing you away. Did I win? Man, that was hard hitting for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it definitely ties back into what we were just talking about, and that fear that comes up in relationships. And I think that a lot of people naturally, to sort of overcome this fear of rejection, will just sort of unconsciously say, well, I'm not going to be rejected. I'm going to reject you instead. And they
Mm-hmm.
push people away. And they think of this as sort of a triumph over this fear. Well, like I wasn't the one who was rejected,
Mm-hmm.
but when you do that, I think both people lose. It's not an honest, and in a way it is honest because you're reacting to an honest and real fear that you have, but
Yeah.
you're not sort of, I guess, honoring the other side of what you're feeling, which is love.
Yeah, you gotta experience that for both of you too. And wow, yeah, I think a lot of people just are missing out when they do that stuff. I can't, yeah. It would be, because it does take a lot of guts and a lot of things to actually like put that person for, because like you said, I'm pretty sure you've been through it. I've been through it. That when you go through a breakup, that it's really, it's a bad feeling. It's not good. You don't want to do anything. You need some alone time to recover from it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of times people are just like, what the heck just happened? Like, we loved each other, and you don't really know what went wrong. It's sometimes really hard to pinpoint it down because a lot of times it's our own fault. And we really have to look at ourselves to be like, oh, I did that. I pushed someone away, you know?
Yeah, and it's crazy too. Like you were saying too, that sometimes we have regrets. Like, oh, if I would have said this would have changed, and this and that. And it's maybe subconsciously you just wanted it to happen. I want to move on to my favorite poem that you wrote. This one's really good, and you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. I was like, oh, that's why you wrote this part. So you'll find out. I keep your letters. I can't read them anymore. I like to pretend there are more coming. I know there aren't. I keep your letters. I hold them sometimes. I like to pretend they still smell like you. I know they don't. I keep your letters. I know they are full of love. I like to pretend their words are still true. I know they aren't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. So, letters were kind of our thing. Actually,
That's
the
great.
first letter that, yeah, no, it was really sweet. The first letter he wrote me was actually before we started dating.
Uh-huh.
Um, and it was just, like I said, he was a private person and it was just his way of expressing himself. He's also an artist. And I think sometimes it's just easier to be alone with your
Mm-hmm.
thoughts and put them down rather than having a conversation.
Okay.
You can just say things that for whatever reason you just can't say out loud.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm sure he still has the letters I wrote him too, but I have so many letters from him. And like I said, I will probably keep them forever. And sometimes I do read them still and I look through
Mm-hmm.
them sometimes I don't want to read them, and I just hold
Yeah.
them, which sounds like, I don't know, maybe that sounds kind of pathetic, but
No,
they are
that's
just
I would do that too if I had that.
they are just so full of love, and I
Mm-hmm.
know that. And sometimes, like sometimes we just feel sorry for ourselves, or we're feeling lonely, and just, I mean, he really loved me, and sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it just feels so good to remember that. Um,
Yeah, because another thing that made me think about when I was reading this poem was that how we don't keep our exes things, or we're told not to, like just throw it away, throw it all out. And yet you kept these letters because they still meant something to you, and it kind of brought you back to that moment in time too when you guys were still talking.
yeah, I mean, I think that sometimes it is warranted to maybe get rid of some things from our exes that, I don't know, like a necklace or something that, like, oh, like, you got
Mm-hmm.
this for me because it was Valentine's Day or because it was my birthday. But I think these letters are different. Like, there was no occasion other than the fact that somebody loves me,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why I have them. It wasn't for my birthday. It wasn't for, Christmas or Valentine's Day. It's just because. And I I think that goes a little bit deeper than the normal sort of get rid of stuff from your exes.
Mm.
And like I said, I mean, this went on for years. I have letters from him that span probably 6 years or so.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting when I read them again to see how they've changed, but also that they haven't, that you can still see that, like, wow, this person really loves me. And I don't think I would ever
Mm-hmm.
want to let go of that, of knowing how much someone could care about me. I think that's something really special to hold on to.
Yeah, that's a really mature stance too. And because I couldn't keep anything from one of my previous relationships. I think I just like have one shirt, but it's because of a sports team that I like, and more of it, not yeah, but it's yeah, it's yeah, I had to delete pictures, I had to do all that stuff because I didn't want to remember it. It was weird how you said about how you thought it was weird that you hold the letters, but to me, it was weird that I was just deleting these pictures because it was it was something that did mean special to me, but I didn't want that feeling again.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's true in most cases. And I've definitely had other relationships where I don't keep anything, but I just think this relationship was really special. And I haven't experienced anything
Mm-hmm.
like it since. And
Wow.
like I said, we're still friends.
Yeah, that's the other good thing too.
And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I don't think we would have been friends if I hadn't written this book. And so I'm just gonna, if you don't mind, just read the last poem of the book. Is that
Oh
okay? Just
yes,
not
that's
to, like,
totally.
give it away to anybody, but sort of just to see the progression of things. So the last poem is, I spent years looking for someone to love me the
Mm-hmm.
same way you love me. Now I hope that I will find someone to love the same way you loved me. And so I'm
Wow.
not in a place where I feel like we need to get back together and I'll never love anybody again. But I
Mm-hmm.
do feel like writing this book really helped me appreciate what we had and realize that, like, it's not just about what he gave me, but I can give that to somebody. Like, I can make someone feel as amazing as he made me feel. You know what I mean? Like, I can give that back to someone
Mm-hmm.
else. And it's finally something that I think I'm ready to do.
Wow, that's great. That's awesome to hear. Yeah, because it's hard to just go through that progression again of dating and finding someone, and then just I had the struggle of like for 2 years of like, oh, is it time? Is it time for me to like love someone again? But just go through it. And I think your book will really inspire a lot of people because I'm not gonna lie, I had to put the book down a couple of times because some of these are like, she's right. It's like, oh, that's how I felt. It's like, all right, that's enough for today. I'm gonna take a break. It was like a little bit emotional for me, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, and I've actually heard that from other people too. And sometimes when I go through it, like when you were even talking about the one about the letters, I mean, that's a really emotional, thing for me to have them all. So I even get like that sometimes. I think all of them are just really honest. I mean, a lot of them are short and maybe they don't fit sort of the traditional like sense when somebody thinks of poetry, they don't rhyme or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I think they're all very honest and heartfelt, and I think that a lot of them are really relatable.
No, they are, and that's why I wanted you to get on my show. And thank you so much again for taking the time. I know it's getting late for you over there, so I'll wrap things up. Can you let my audience know, though, where we can find your book and the title?
Yeah, absolutely. So the title of my book is Loving You, and it's available on Amazon. It's available at Barnes & Noble online. It's available on Google Play. And it's also available in like a Kindle version if that's your thing, if you like books in a Kindle version.
On the go, just read them wherever. And I'll also be putting a link on my show notes too, so my listeners will be able to find that too. Yeah, so thank you so much, Atiya. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks again for having me, Carlos. It was really fun. So
as you heard, Atiya Rose went through a lot in a relationship, and she wrote it down. She really captured the feelings, emotions. Like I said in that interview, I really couldn't read that whole book all the time because, man, it was really emotional. Made me catch feelings on the things I used to feel before too. So go out, cop it. It's called Loving You. It's on Amazon Books. She was a great guest. I hope you liked her interview. And like you heard me, I'll also be leaving that link to where you can grab her book. Shout out to Atiya for giving me time to do this interview. And also tell your friends about I Think I Love You. It only helps us grow, and it also helps me out put on more episodes because I can put in more time to do this too. So appreciate you guys. Keep following, keep listening. And if you got any friends that want to be part of the show, send me a message or send me an email. Go to my Instagram, go to my Twitter, Loverboy Los for Instagram, Loverboy Loso for Twitter. Facebook page is I Think I Love You. And you can send me an email at loverboylos92@gmail.com. And thank you. Appreciate it. And have a good rest of your week, everyone.